In this video, we're going to discuss what you need to play Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. This is Master the Game. I am Juice. Let's get started. Make sure you head on over to rpgjuice.com, where you can get caught up on the latest videos, the latest news, and blog posts from Juice himself. I briefly touched on this in the previous video, where I talked about what players would need and what DMs would need. But I want to go a little more in depth here. So in this video, we're going to dive into exactly what you need at your gaming table, or if you're playing online, what you need at your stream. We're also going to discuss what you might want at your gaming table. So some things that you might not need, but will make it a little better. The very first thing you're going to need is dice. You can play Dungeons and Dragons without a book. You really can. Now, it's not advised, but you don't need a book to play Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, I've played many sessions where nobody's even opened a book. So just keep that in mind. Once you've been playing for a while, you might not need a book anymore. But you will always need dice. Now, dice come in physical forms if you're playing in person. And sometimes if you're playing online, you might have a DM that just says, yeah, we're just going to roll dice and tell me what your number is. And that's perfectly fine. Some, in fact, most online games I've played in, people prefer you to use a dice roller. They're built into Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, and there's other ones out there too. And the reason people want this is so they can verify what you actually rolled. And it's might be because they trust you or they don't, but really what it comes down to is they just want to be able to see it quickly and be able to make a ruling right then and there. So don't get worried and say, oh, you just don't trust what I'm going to roll. That's not what it's about. It's usually quicker if they can see what you rolled rather than have to ask you. Now in person, you'll still have to tell them what you rolled. Seeing across the table is a little bit difficult sometimes. And that's okay. So those are the different things you can do when it comes to dice. Now, how many dice do you need? It really just depends. If you have one set of dice, that's fine. Certain attacks, certain abilities, things like that, they will require you to roll more than one of the same die type. Just add it up as you go. For instance, 4d6, you roll, oh, got a 4, boom, got a 5, that's 9. Third time rolling, boom, you rolled a 2, I'm at 11, boom. Rolled a 3, I'm at 14 on my 4d6. It's really simple, and that's really common. Sometimes other players will give you more of the die that you need, but you don't have to buy more than one set of dice. In fact, your table might only have one set of dice. If you're playing with just the starter kit, it just comes with the basic set of dice. It's just one of every type. And that, again, is perfectly fine for getting started. Until you know more about Dungeons & Dragons and you've played a few times, you might want to start with a low-cost investment. And that's, again, it's perfectly normal. Now, I would recommend a player's handbook. You're going to need to be able to create your characters. You also are going to want at least a blank sheet of paper. You might not have access to a copier or a printer. If you do, print off some character sheets. But if you don't have that, you can do it all on a lined piece of paper or just a blank white printer paper. And you're just going to have to write all your stats down. Make sure it's in areas you know where it's at. If it's on the character sheet, just make sure you understand where specific things are. Make sure you understand where your saving throws are, where your attacks are, and the modifiers and which die type to roll for damage. Make sure you know where your abilities are. I recommend when writing in your abilities and feats, reference the page number on your character sheet. Make sure you know where your armor class is located, your movement speed, any of your proficiencies, all of that. Make sure you know where it's at. It shouldn't take long. Just look at your character sheet for a couple minutes, and maybe it's 5 minutes before the game. You just look it over and, just train yourself again. Okay, this is where skills are. This is where saving throws are. Boom, boom, boom. Just so you can get familiar with it. There's nothing worse than when you're sitting at the table and a DM says, roll blah, blah, blah. Roll your stealth. And you have a character looking at their sheet and looking at the second sheet and the third sheet or the back of their sheet, and they can't figure it out. And they're sitting next to another new person who might not know where it's at. And then it holds things up. You don't want to be that person that's kind of holding things up. It doesn't seem like they know what they're doing. It's okay if you don't, but try to learn it as you go. Again, it comes down to effort. Everybody wants to play with people who give maximum effort. It's more fun that way. And if you're not giving maximum effort, it usually shows. I mean, I've played with people before where we played for, gosh, almost a year and had a player that still didn't know basic stuff that they should have known after one single game. And it's because they weren't paying attention. They were there just because, they're the person they were with wanted to play. So they weren't really into the game. And that's not fun. It's not fun for anybody. It's not fun for you who's pretending to be there, and it's not fun for the rest. So if you're going to play D&D, get fully invested. So you've got the player's handbook. You've got your dice. If you're a player, that's all you'll need. Now, if you guys are playing with miniatures, you might want to buy your own miniature. This is probably the least important thing because the DM will probably have all the miniatures needed. There's some cheats you can do too. Go online, find pictures, cut out 1-inch circle, glue it onto a 1-inch washer, and you could use that instead of a miniature. If you're a DM and you're looking to run the games, you could do that as well with all of them. In fact, I had a DM who did that. They cut out all the circles of like guards. And then on the back, they did the same thing, except on the back, they colored it with red, and that meant that they were down. So if you knocked out a guard, he'd flip it over and it was red. That meant that they were done. They weren't going to be fighting anymore. They're incapacitated. That was really cool. Your DM will typically, again, provide miniatures if you're using miniatures. They'll probably provide the maps if you're using maps. If, again, you are the DM, you will need dice. You will need a monster manual. I insist that you get a monster manual. Will you always need it? No. In fact, after you've been playing this game for a while, you can just make up monsters on the fly. You'll know, okay, I want this armor class, I want this many hit points, I want it to have this ability, and you'll be able to flow with the game, you'll be able to improvise combats and everything. That's when the game gets really fun. When you start, winging things, coming up with things on the fly that make sense, that's when you're getting really good at this game. So, I would definitely say get the monster manual. You're all going to need pencils. Usually the DM should have all the pencils for everybody. If you're a player, bring some pencils for yourself at least. But a DM, you should plan to probably have enough pencils for everybody there. If you're hosting the game, then I would recommend you provide the paper, blank paper. Character sheets, maybe not, but definitely the paper. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is it's not something you need. It's not something that anybody needs. But you guys might want to consider picking up D&D Beyond. I just want to give a quick shout out to the software D&D Beyond. If you're playing D&D and you're not using D&D Beyond, you are missing out. So head on over to D&D Beyond. You'll just need a Twitch account to get started and check it out. See what they have to offer. I guarantee you it will improve your gaming experience beyond your wildest dreams. D&D Beyond is one of the best softwares for any tabletop RPG I've ever seen in my life. Now, you can create characters in about 2 to 3 minutes, no problem. You can create monsters. You can create magic items. There's new features coming constantly. There's going to be encounter builders eventually. They have very limited campaign management. It allows you to put notes in there right now and bring your players from your group in so they have access to the books that you've bought for D&D Beyond. One of the cool things about D&D Beyond is you don't have to buy everything. You can buy piecemeal. Like if you're playing a character and you want to be a Dragonborn, you could buy the Dragonborn race and he's a cleric. You might buy the cleric class out of the player's handbook. Once you've bought all these things, if later on you decide to buy the book, it comes off the price of the book. So that's awesome. Again, this isn't a tool that's necessary, but it is very useful. I use it. I know a lot of people who do. You'll see it a lot on YouTube by other people who do these types of videos. And in fact, later in this series, I'm going to do character creation in there. And I'm going to show off some of the features of D&D Beyond. So if you're interested, go check those out and learn a little more about it. There's a lot of cool things about it. You can buy all the books that have been out for D&D in digital form. They're not quite as expensive as buying physical books, and you can download them to your phone through the D&D Beyond app. If something ever happens to D&D Beyond where, say, the software it goes obsolete, it'll always be on your phone. As long as you have your phone, those files will be there. So just because the computer website stops working doesn't mean you lose access to those. I'm not sure if it works the same if you have the app on your laptops and things like that, but if you do, I would assume it works the same. You can just download it there and then it'll always be there. Something I also recommend for DMs is buy a DM screen. Now, some people say, well, is that because you're just hiding your dice rolls? That's part of it, and I like to have it for that. I like to hide my miniatures, though. I like to hide my notes, and there are actually some really cool things on the inside of the DM screen, such as specific rules that you don't use much, such as travel. Conditions are on there. If there's stuff on there that you're not going to use, you can always cover it up with some other rule that you know you don't use very much. So again, I like to put that there just so I can see those when I need to. Now, one of the things I do with my DM screen is I make player tents. What it is it's a piece of paper that sits on top of my screen. It'll have each character's name on each one. It'll also have monsters. I'll just say monsters. As a player goes, I move it over, and it's all in initiative order. Now, if you want these, I have these over on my website, over at rpgjuice.com. You can download them. I have little templates. I'm going to probably be updating those periodically. So if this sounds like something you want, again, go download it and check my website out in the download section. It's perfectly free. I have some other little neat tools that I use over there, such as I have an adventure sheet for DMs, so you can do your prep on it. I have a campaign management sheet that allows you to keep character information on there, such as their hit points and armor class, many other things. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, it's over in the download section on rpgjuice.com. Other things you might need are some flip mats. So if you're playing with miniatures, you might want to get their Game Mastery flip mats. They're really good. You can use dry erase or wet erase marker on them. But there's even cheaper alternatives out there. If you just want to use, it's called gaming paper. It's not very expensive. It's kind of like wrapping paper, but it's got 1-inch squares. You can do that. The other thing you can do is there are basic flip mats that you can write on that are also Game Mastery flip maps. Those are really good. Chessex has a really good one. Chessex, though, theirs is a material that can stain if you don't clean it off properly. So follow the instructions. Don't leave stuff written on there for more than like a day, and you should be okay. But that's a really nice mat that rolls up nicely for reuse. And it's pretty big. I believe one side has hex grids and the other side is squares. If you're playing a spellcaster and you're having trouble with your spells and you don't like looking it up in the book, you don't want to write everything out, I highly recommend getting the spell cards. You'll see back here on my shelf, I have quite a few. They're very useful. What I do is I tend to pull out the ones that my characters have, I'd lay them out, and then as they come up in play, I can read it right there. I don't have to go to the book. Another thing I do too as a DM is I actually have a binder back here that has a bunch of spell cards in it for every class, and I've organized it by class. I've also taken and copied how spell rules work for each class. I can't share that with you guys, unfortunately. What you can do is you can go into D&D Beyond. If you've got the player's handbook in there, you can do a little screen clip of how spells work for different classes and make your own crib sheet or cheat sheet. And then you can put it in a clear page protector, put it in your own binder, and you will be set. It works amazing. Like if I am improvising a spellcaster, I might not even know offhand if it's a wizard or a sorcerer. I'll just flip open and go, oh, wizard, okay, boom, 2nd level spell. Here we go, magic missile 2nd level. And I have all the stuff I need really quickly. And that's what it's about. Being able to do things on the fly quickly, efficiently, so players think that you prepared everything. It's awesome when players don't know that you improvise stuff. When they think that, wow, you prepared all that, that was such a good adventure. So again, spell cards are great for that. I think you can get all the spell cards for under $100 too, so it's not too bad. If that's a lot, so be it. You know, you don't need them, but I do find they make my games better. Now, something that I create on my own is a campaign binder. Actually, I create a campaign folder, but some people make binders out of it. My folder will have has the 2 pockets, but it also has the 3 prongs in the middle. And so what I do with that, I'll slip clear page protectors in there, and then I'll slip campaign information in there. At the end of the session, on the back pocket, if players want to leave their character sheets or their notes with me, I just slip it in there. And then in the front pocket is where I put my personal notes, such as what is going on with this city, what about this NPC, what about these magic items. The story arc stuff goes into the clear page protectors. That's where, okay, this is my timeline of what's happening no matter what the players are doing, kind of. So I've got stuff going on in the background. Now the players can do things that'll tweak that timeline, and before the next session I'll update it. But for the most part, it's okay. This city is being attacked by dragons right now while these players are here. After that, those dragons might go here, you know, and so I'll do like little timeline stuff there, and that the players can mess with. Some people do like a web diagram where how people are connected and what's going on in the world and how that affects everything. Some people do that. Some people do outlines. In fact, I've used outlines a lot where it's, you know, main bullet point, boom, 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 sub bullet points. These things need to happen in order to do this, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. So I create my own folder. Now, as my campaign gets bigger, I do move it up to a 3-ring binder, and I actually put it into my home setting binder, and that's really useful. Now, I have another binder that's called a DM's binder. My DM's binder has my prep notes. So what I put in there is I'll have who, what, when, where, and why, as well as house rules. So 6 sections. The who will have tables for NPCs such as race, background information, quirks about them. And I do that so I can quickly come up with NPCs on the fly. I'll also have tables for monsters, for creating monsters. And I'll have names, a bunch of names right there. And I might even have pre-done NPCs in there already. The what will be story hooks, MacGuffins, things like that. I also will have like magic items and cursed items, relics, artifacts, wondrous items, all these things in there. Under where, I'll have places like my temples and all the wonders of my world, like waterfalls, and maybe I'll have islands that jut up out of the ocean and are hard to access unless you are able to climb well. You know, all these different world wonders, different places. And, you know, and you get the idea of what a DM's binder is. It's anything that can help you prep your next session quickly using tables. Tables are huge in my DM binder. And once I've made stuff, I usually just put it in there. Like if I don't use something from a session, I just put it in there at the back so I can actually pull it out without having to go back through the process of the tables again. So that's kind of nice. Is this something you need? No, but it will be very helpful for you. Something else, and this is my last little tip, is having an extra player's handbook is always useful. You know, maybe you have a person at your game who doesn't have a book, but they're playing a spellcaster and they need to look things up. Being able to just hand a book over to them for them to go through as they need is awesome. That way they're not taking somebody else's book. Some people are very weird about their books. I know me, I'm very protective. And so I actually have 3 players' handbooks. And I'm hoping to pick up the gift set bundle that's going to have all the books, all the core books, the handbook, the monster manual, and the DM's guide here soon. So I will have 4 players' handbooks, which makes it really nice too. If you have extra, you can always tell players, hey, don't worry about bringing yours. I've got you covered. So I know the books get expensive. So it's something that it's not for everybody to do. But if you can do it, it is something that's very useful and very helpful to the group. So that's all the things you need or might want. There's probably other things out there that you might want, such as dice towers and dice rolling cups, things like that make it nice so you don't have to worry about your dice going off the table. There's other types of things like cards for, different abilities and things like that. You might want those too. I'm not going to go into all of those, but just know there are more tools out there that you might decide you need as you play D&D. If you found this video helpful, please hammer that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment below if you thought this was helpful, if there's anything in here you want to know more about, or if you recommend any tools that I did not mention. I tried my best to cover them all. I think I did, but if I missed something, please point it out and mention it below. This was Master of the Game. I am Juice. Game on. If you would like to support the channel, you can head on over to our Patreon, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, or join the Discord server. Check out the clickable links in the description below.